So this is my big colouring in book of vehicles, which I've been doing in my studio over the last couple of weeks. They're all drawn on what's called SMLT paper. And the pages are 40 centimetres by 40 centimetres. So they're quite big, which gives me lots and lots of space to basically populate the centre of the page with the vehicles and leave me a nice white border all around the outside. So this is the first one that I did, which is my bulldozer, which then inspired me to do another one. And this is the boat down at Hoylake, which is where I live, and it's on the coast. This is the old boatyard. Because it's Hoylake, we get lots and lots of seagulls flying around all the time, so I had to put a seagull in. The paints that I use are Old Holland, which give this amazing vibrant quality. And I've kind of changed my technique a little bit. This is a tractor down at Heswell, which again is not far from where I live. But unlike the urban sketches that I normally do, I've been putting the paint on first. So I put lots and lots of really vibrant splashes and almost mark out a huge big abstract shape. And then I start layering on lots of tone work and lots of detail. So this tractor here, you can see it's just started off as a simple abstract shape, marking everything out, and then you start adding the detail, and it almost becomes animated. It becomes like a character with these headlamps which look like little eyes, and then the wheels look like little feet, and you can imagine it kind of wandering around. So they're just great fun to do. It's a nice playful thing to do when you're kind of stuck in the studio, which I am at the moment. This is a really old truck, just an abandoned old truck in a field, and you can see the tyre here, it's got flat. So with this one, I'm trying to, I suppose, suggest the character of it, how old it is, how rusty it is, how decayed it starts to be. But at the same time, make it a really visually interesting and hopefully beautiful thing to kind of look at. It's kind of finding charm in the things that are kind of abandoned and old and left behind. And this guy here, this kind of steam engine, you can see it looks like it's really huffing and puffing with all the splashes. So I'm using my technique that I've been developing for years with the urban sketching, and just kind of slightly readjusting it in terms of a different subject. So instead of kind of sketching everything out first, I'm putting the colour on. It's this old Dodge truck. It would have just been the colour as a shape that went on first, using lots and lots and lots of washes, really building it up, making it really kind of vibrant and dynamic, and then adding the tone on top and adding the line work. So normally when I'm doing the urban sketching, I kind of sketch it out first, but I'm not doing this. I want the kind of the colour to almost mark out the shape, to sketch out the composition, just using colour. So it's kind of working in a more abstract way to begin with. And that's essentially because these things have got no context. They're not in a background. There's no scene behind. They're just floating in space. So I'm kind of treating them more like a three-dimensional abstract structure to begin with. And then I start adding and layering the detail with the fine liners and the brush pens. So it's kind of missing out the first couple of steps that I would normally do if I was working on location doing urban sketching. This old Chevy is very much like how I felt a couple of days ago. But because it's a front elevation, you can almost read the headlamps as being the eyes looking back at you. And he's a little bit abandoned, a little bit forgotten, a little bit lost, lying there in the field in isolation. There's the dog barking in the background there. So the seagull makes another appearance. It appeared in some of the sketches just before. We have lots of seagulls around where we live, and they're always landing on top of old tractors and boats and trailers and things like that. One of the reasons, well, I did several reasons I did this book. One is to do something different, which is a great way of challenging yourself, having a different approach. And from that, it enables you to move forward because you learn from it. If you do the same thing all the time, obviously you'll get hopefully really good at what you're doing within that way of working. But I think if you really want to kind of push yourself and challenge yourself you need to try different things. And I can remember when I was a child, when I was at school, I was rubbish at doing cars, vehicles, motorbikes. Probably still am, but I could never do it. I just couldn't get it right. And this is something I've always wanted to work on. I've never really had the opportunity until obviously this whole thing about not being able to go outside came along. So now I've got the opportunity to do it. So it's been a great kind of learning curve for me, even though I'm using a similar approach to what I've always done. It's just been a great opportunity just to try something different. And from that, you're going to move forward. You're going to hopefully improve. This old Chevy here, obviously the wheel is turned around and he's kind of looking away. And he makes me think he's quite shy. He doesn't want his portrait done. This is an old Citroen racing car. What attracted me to this was the kind of the tonal contrast, this really, really dark bit down the front here, which brings out, emphasises the two lamps. And then you've got these lovely kind of subtle yellow creamy washes that go away. So often it's a kind of colour combination or a tonal combination that I find quite attractive in the first place that makes me want to kind of draw it. And then obviously you get sidetracked with all the technical detail and all the machinery, all the kind of engine work underneath, most of which I haven't got a clue what it does. But I'm not really bothered about that. And then finally, the last one that I did is the old Ford. And it's just been great fun doing these. I've really, really enjoyed it. So I just wanted to share my big colouring in book of vehicles, and I hope you've enjoyed looking through them, and I hope you all look after yourselves and keep safe. Okay, bye-bye everyone.